Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to this podcast has no name. So, yeah, there's no title for this podcast. It's just us sitting here talking until we think of one. Because we couldn't think of one. So, I am Tom. This is my brother Jared. And this is our first podcast. We're going to be doing this about once a month. Unless we decide to cancel it completely or do it more often. And hopefully it's the do it more often one, because that'd be cool. So, thank you for doing this podcast with me.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Dot.
You son of a bitch.
I'll do this podcast. But not tonight. Not tonight.
You want your podcast? You got it. Just not in this trash town. Not in this cesspool of a city. Not in this dumpster fire of the Midwest. Fucking cursed. I'm already like crying from laughing. I do have Twitch chat pulled up, but nobody's talking, so I can't actually see any of it. I'll have to add that in just a moment, but
refresh and there's like 4,000 viewers.
Yeah, I'm partnered already. Little background for myself and my brother. So I mostly just do Twitch streaming and dabble in YouTube. I'll post like 4 videos to a playthrough and then just never finish it. I'm pretty good at that. My brother, on the other hand, is an actual talented person who just hit 500 subs on his YouTube channel. Woo! So you just put out Crash Twinsanity review, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel going back and playing that? When was the last time you played it before that?
Probably 2018. So, not too long ago. But, in a way, it was a lot of what I remember, but also just worse. I've always loved it, but this time, a lot of it really stuck out to me, just how crap it can be sometimes. But I was like, yeah, but I still love it. It's whether it's nostalgia or some weird charm the game has, I honestly think it's the second one. I mean, obviously it's a little mix of both, but I feel like everybody loves Twinsanity to some extent, like one way or another. I always hear in reviews people be like, oh, like you either love this game or you hate this game. I'm like, yeah, like critical reception is like kind of mixed on it, but as for like people themselves who have played that, I've never really heard many people say they like I fucking hate Twinsanity. Like every review or everybody I've seen talk about it is like, I love this game so much. Like I hope it gets a remaster or a remake or something one day. So, I really liked it. I still love it, and I would be open to it getting some kind of remake one day. I don't think that will ever happen, but, is what it is.
That would be interesting to see like some kind of remake for it, and just like see if like fully fleshed out, like see the whole thing pretty much finished. Like, 'cause I feel like it just wouldn't make any sense to remake it and then just leave shit out that was already left out.
Yeah.
Because even like the Insane trilogy, even though it was kind of like DLC, they were like, let's just take all these levels that we never released and put them into the game, or like make them optional, like outside of like the trophies and everything like that. Just add it into the game as like its own thing.
Yeah. I still wish Crash 2 got like its own unique level, but it just got cucked. Because there's Stormy Ascent, and then there's Future Tense for Crash 3, and then Crash 2 just kind of gets nothing. And I get it, but still, it just, my OCD's like, why didn't Crash 2 get one?
That's what happens though when you make a perfect Crash game.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I always flip-flop between 2 and 3 being my favorite.
Really? Yeah. I think, like, growing up, I remember really liking Crash 2 and Crash 3. And then, I think Crash 1 was probably the one I played the least, though, too. Because that one is just the toughest one. The original is really, really tough. Just because of the conditions it puts you in. And it really puts you in, like, a spot where you can't really make many mistakes. Else you just get game over consistently.
Yeah.
But I remember 2 and 3 like being pretty even growing up, and then the Insane Trilogy came out, and when I replayed all those games like a year and a half ago, yeah, like summer of 2020, I played through all three of them again. I remember liking 2 about pretty much as I liked it before.
Mm-hmm.
Like no less than I liked it before, for sure. 1 I liked so much better because it felt like it was finally like I felt like it was actually done in its like true form almost, like in a way it should have been done to begin with. But I also like the little quirks and like tidbits about it that make it different than 2 and 3, that separate it from 2 and 3. Just like how you have like the map, which they added to Crash 4, where you have the map you can run around on, and then you have like the end screen, like the like kind of like the gem screen or whatever, like how it showed you how many boxes you missed and everything. Just like little things like that I like about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really fit with all the games that come after it, but it fits in its own way. Whereas like say with like Sly 1 and like some other games, I just prefer the second game and onward way more.
Mm-hmm.
But Crash 1 just has this like weird charm about it. Crash 3, on the other hand, I liked way less when I went back and played it on the Insane Trilogy.
I was gonna say... Yeah.
I was like, damn, I really do not like this game nearly as much as I thought I did. Because it's so many vehicles and just like... There's just a bunch of things with it that I just did not like. But it's still a great game. I think out of the 3, it definitely has the best soundtrack. I've listened to those soundtracks a handful of times, like the past 2 weeks, just not having anything to listen to at work. I'll just throw on like the Crash soundtracks and listen to them. The Crash 3 soundtrack for at least the original games, that's definitely the best soundtrack to me.
Yeah, because there's so much like diversity in all the levels.
Yeah, the levels and the music. There's so much variety and like diversity, and there's just so many memorable tracks too. But it is funny how like the title screen and the like theme song to Crash 3. I didn't realize how many versions of that song that there were.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many versions of that song. And then, like, they had, like, 8 versions of it, and none of them were as good as the main screen for Wrath of Cortex, though. The one for Wrath of Cortex, the first one, is already better than every version of it from Crash 3, except maybe the main title screen. Every other one is, like, not nearly as good, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably just like the original Crash 3 one. Wrath of Cortex 1's good, though, but I also feel like it's, like, missing a little something.
I just love that one, I think, because it's, like, it really hits, like, that electronic sound.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. I love that kind of, like,
yeah, I really like it still, but...
Yeah, like that, bam, 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 like, it, just, like, the keyboards and, like, synthesizer and stuff. It just sounds so good. That game actually, like, looks pretty good for a PS2 game, too. Like, even today, it's, like, it actually doesn't look that bad at all. It's just, like, it's so weird, that game. It's, like, the epitome of playing it safe.
Yeah.
I think they were just like, you guys liked vehicle levels in Crash 3? And they just threw vehicles in, like, every level.
I think it's hit or miss with how it looks. I mean, for the most part, I think it looks pretty decent, but all, like, the character models, for some reason, look like...
Like, the enemies and stuff?
Like, all the character models, like, the bosses in, like, the beginning cutscene, like, Engine and Tiny and all them, like...
Oh, yeah.
Especially like, Engine, like, looks fucking horrible. I know Engine's supposed to look bad, but it doesn't look intentional. He just looks like fucking mess.
Yeah, they're just, like, unpolished. And then Cortex looks like just... His face, like, doesn't move. That's the weird thing about it. He just has, like, this look on his face the whole time, like his face is stuck or like he got Botox or something.
I think somebody said once he looks like an alpha model from The Simpsons Hit and Run.
Dude, now I want to see somebody mod Cortex into Simpsons Hit and Run. Can you imagine like driving like his like blimp that he has, but it's like shrunken down to like a car size, and you're driving that around in like Simpsons Hit and Run? That would be so much fun.
I was gonna say though, about the Insane trilogy, I probably do agree. Like, even though the original trilogy, Crash 3, is probably my favorite, it's at least tied with 2. But then on the Insane trilogy, it's definitely goes like Crash 2, Crash 1, Crash 3.
Yeah.
Just because like, I already didn't like how many vehicles and stuff there were in Crash 3. But it was like, it's fine. They all control well enough and all that in the original game. But then they all control like shit in the Insane Trilogy. Like, the ski and the bike especially all control horribly. And there's, 4 bike levels? So it's like, that and the skiing is like not a third, like a fifth of the game that just controls like absolute dog shit. And it's just unenjoyable to play. So...
I do remember people saying, like, yo, what's up with the vehicles and like the remake? Like it just doesn't work as well as the originals.
They just made it bad.
Yeah. I don't know. I never really cared for those kind of levels anyway to begin with. I just like the platforming sections, and I think that's why Crash 2 is so good, because it just takes like it just weeds out it weeds out all the bad stuff from Crash 1, and then just is like, all right, what can we add to this to kind of just like put the cherry on top. It's like a weird thing with like game trilogies too. Like you look at Spyro and Crash's game trilogies, they're very similar in the sense where like the second game is a more polished, like weeded out version of the first game, and it really accomplishes everything it needs to accomplish. And then the third game, they're like, well, why don't we just throw a bunch of vehicles in here? People like that. That'll be fun. Yeah. And then like, depending on if you like that stuff or not, like me myself, I don't really care for any of that stuff. I don't really like doing the vehicle stuff all the time. So for me, those two games, so for me, like those, like the third games, those trilogies, both kind of like fall short for me. But I'm sure for other people, they're like, oh, this is awesome, and like that's why it's probably why it's like their favorite game in that whole series.
Yeah.
But
yeah, what was I gonna say? I forget.
Also, my buddy just texted me, yo, congrats on starting the podcast. He's been telling me for a while, like, yo, why don't you do another podcast? And I was like, I don't know, I just haven't gotten around to it. Because the last one I did was fun, but it was primarily me doing it. I didn't have, like, a second person. Like, I had other people doing it with me, but it wasn't like they were, like, permanent people on the podcast. I was just kind of like, hey, you want to do this with me? And, like, try to have different people on, like, each episode, but it's, like, after, like, 6 episodes, I'm, like, I would be, like, totally, like, wiped of people to have on there, because I only know, like, so many people. But, yeah, Cody, thank you. Shout out to my boy Cody, my brother in drinking Busch Light apples. Still got that 6-pack in the fridge for you. It expires in like 3 days, so please come get it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to guzzle all of them.
Alright, I'll just take him over to Jess's later.
I'm going to text him and ask him if he's going to be home, because I'm going to be like, otherwise, I have to drink these. I have no other choice.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say, though. Just about, like, the vehicles and all that they just kind of seem to slap on sometimes. I know it's definitely been said by, like, Naughty Dog, that they were really running out of ideas by Crash 3, but I think it was just kind of like part of their contract that they had to do 3 games. Like, they were already working on Crash Team Racing after Crash 2, and even then, that they were just kind of like, oh, fuck this, like, we're just, like, Oxide was supposed to be, like, a horrible villain, like, they were basically just sabotaging their own franchise, basically, but it ended up being, like, the best kart racer of all time. So they were probably like, fuck.
I actually just bought that last night for PlayStation. I was at work and I was like, fuck, I want to get CTR. I was like, I always enjoyed playing it. I just never put time into it because it's on the Switch and we constantly like don't fight over Switch, but I mean we like we both go back and forth.
Let me cuck you over the Switch.
Not at first. It was the other way around. I think it still applies. Remember when I told you that, like, when I buy you gifts and stuff, that it's not even on purpose. It just happens. Where, like, gifts that I buy you eventually return to me and become mine. Between, what was it? The Switch. Like, the first, like, 2 years or so we had the Switch. I don't think you ever touched it outside of when I gave it to you the first time.
Yeah. And when I just played Breath of the Wild for a bit. Yeah, you played
Breath of the Wild for, like, a week. And then that thing was just gathering dust for, like, 6 months. And then I was like, hey, can I use that? And you were like, yeah, here. Like, I don't want it. What was the other thing? There was something else too that I had gotten you, and I think eventually you were just like, you just gave it straight to me. I don't remember what it was, but it was like another thing that was like kind of significant, or like not a big deal, but like some kind of gift where I was just like, oh, Jared will like this, and then it just like came back to me. That's my favorite thing about like giving gifts to you is that
it'll always come back.
they just find their way back, and I'm like, am I a bad brother that I just buy gifts that he just doesn't like? I'm like, am I a bad person, like kind of knowing that like this is probably gonna come back to me, but I still buy it anyway because I'm like, Jared will like this.
And then like with Spyro, I mean, I don't know, maybe they were running out of ideas by the third game. I feel like they definitely just kind of like really hit their stride perfectly with the second game. It would have been really hard to improve upon what they did, so they just kind of did a bunch of stuff in 3 that works for basically everybody else on the planet but me, apparently. I feel like I'm the only one that's like, this game is not good.
Nah, fuck that game.
I mean, I'm sure, like, yeah, overall it's good, it's fine, but it's not nearly as good as 2. I don't really remember 1 that much, so I can't really say, but I know they were basically around the same level for me, but 3 just felt so much more disappointing because it came right after 2.
See, even 1, like, 1 isn't perfect. It's kind of like I said, Crash and Spyro are, like, similar in the ways that they kind of, like, played out. Where, like, the first one isn't as polished as the second one. The second one does everything in the first one that's good, but better and all. Like, that applies to Spyro, too. But, yes, like, Spyro 3, like, I thought it was an interesting approach how, like, they pretty much said, alright, so, what if, alright, so, like, here's your game disc for the PlayStation 1. You put this in the console, you slap on the lid, and you start the game up. What if we took this CD and we took a huge shit on it, shoved it in a little PlayStation box, and we made mass amounts of copies of this, and then just sent it out to people, and they played the game. And that was more or less like how Spyro 3 came about. I saw it in an article. I read this in an article. May or may not be fictional, but I saw this in an article, and I just thought it was interesting. This is how they decided to do Spyro 3. Was they went, what made Spyro 2 so good? Okay.
Let's try making a good game by not doing that.
Yeah, let's do what we did with Spyro 2. In Spyro 1, we had this core gameplay. We had some good things, some bad things. Spyro 2, well, here we go. Here's the good things and the bad things from Spyro 1. The bad things from Spyro 1, throw that out the window, shove this shit into one game, amplify it times 1,000, and now you have this beautiful, beautiful Spyro 2 with some other things like the cutscenes, the orbs, and a handful of other things.
The music, I think, is a lot better, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the music in all the games is good, but Spyro 2 is, like, perfect.
Yeah, so you have all that stuff. And then also slap in Tom Kenny, because he voices about 60 characters in Spyro 2. He's, like, basically having conversations with himself in Spyro 2 a handful of times.
It's like Rick and Morty's voice actor doing all the roles in Rick and Morty.
I always think about that, because I'm like, I wonder if it's, like, weird for him. That he's just like basically having conversations with himself when he's recording his lines and like reading his lines. I also like to think that when he's in the studio recording the lines, that he's running back and forth from one
mic to the other.
I like to imagine it like that rather than just like him reading Rick's lines and then go, all right, picks up a paper, starts reading Morty's lines. No, I like to imagine that he's doing the whole conversation and then he's like, fuck you, Rick. And then, fuck you, Morty. And then he's just running back and forth, recording every line. Morty. 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 I do that like anytime I burp when I'm drinking. Morty. Morty.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing a video I mean, I will do it eventually. I just don't know if it'll be this year or what. I'll just kind of feel out how things are going. But I'll either do a re-review of the original 3 Spyro games, or I'll just check out like the Reignited trilogy and just see, maybe I was wrong.
Morty. No, I think you should definitely jump into the remasters next. It just makes more sense, and then like I think you should at least wait a little bit more time before you go back and like take another look at the originals again.
Yeah.
I think you should give it a couple years. Cause what those videos are what 2 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say I would give it like another year or two, and then be like, all right, I'm gonna go back. And I think what you should do too is take your original review and put that in your review.
Yeah.
And then just kind of go over like what changes you feel from when you first reviewed this. And then just cut Spyro 3 entirely and just be like, this game wasn't worth taking another look at. I always say what you have in common. Like, it's a weird comparison, but it makes perfect sense. If I ever tell people, like, you know, there's one thing that, like, one big thing that the Terminator franchise and the Spyro franchise have in common. And what that is that they should have just stopped after the second one. It's all downhill from there. It never got better. It never got anywhere close to the second one. Especially with Terminator. Those movies just... Terminator 2 is like a cinematic masterpiece. And then they were just like, let's just take like the franchise and just milk the shit out of it. Let's just make these udders raw. Like just jerk these udders raw. And now you have about 45 Terminator movies, and every time they go to make another one, they're like, okay, how can we retcon the last 16 movies? We have to make it take place after Terminator 2. They keep trying to retcon Terminator until they get one right, and then they can go, okay, this is the new canon. Because you have, like, Terminator 3, you have Terminator, like, I don't even know all the names of the movies. You have, like, Genesis, you have, like, all those kind of words that are, like, chapters in like the Bible.
Yeah.
You could have like Genesis and then,
Revelations.
Like I feel like Terminator has like all these titles that are just like Bible chapters, and then like half of them are Terminator John. You really could make that too, because like the main character in Terminator is John Connor. You really could make Terminator John. They have one where like John Connor's evil, like John Connor is the villain now, even though he's like what the story revolves around is him being the hero that destroys the Terminators. So they make one where they're like, what if John Connor's the villain? And then they made what was the one where they
what if Spyro's the villain?
You do one with Moneybags as a Terminator. You know what was something with I forget the name of it. It didn't do too well. Obviously, because it was after Terminator 2, so it wasn't that great. But they had one that came out in like 2009, and it had like this really good plot twist, but they went and just put it in the trailer. Like the most compelling part of the movie, they were like, let's just show everyone this. And that was like the best part of the movie, at least to me. I just was like, why would you put something like that in the trailer? They put this big twist where like the main character finds out that he's like a Terminator or like a robot, and like he never knew though until like they started like taking him apart or something. They were like torturing him, and he has like metal parts under his skin, or like they knew he was a Terminator but he didn't, so they kind of like took him apart a little bit or whatever. But they like show that in the trailer for the movie, and I'm like, I get it, you want to sell tickets and stuff, but it's like, why would you show that in the trailer? Like, is your movie not good enough on its own to advertise that like people should go to see it without having to spoil like a big part of the movie? I just don't get that. That makes no sense. And that's something I hate with trailers these days. Like for No Way Home, I did not watch any of the trailers, and I'm glad I didn't, because when I went to go see the movie, there's parts in the movie that like I absolutely loved and absolutely was like blown away by. And when I went back and I watched the trailers after seeing the movie, I like thought to myself too. I'm like, wow, I would not have been nearly as excited, like in the movie theater, or like nearly as having as much of a good time in the movie theater, if I had watched the trailers beforehand. Because then I would have known what was coming. Like, because those movies can be predictable to a degree. Plus, with all the rumors surrounding the movie, it's easy to like kind of anticipate like certain things that were going to happen. But because I didn't watch that, like I had some great moments watching that movie, and that's what sucks with movies nowadays is like even if you don't watch the trailers, it's really tough to avoid that kind of like stuff because people are constantly talking about it. And if you go on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, like you're gonna see something about it somewhere. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that really sucks with movies is you don't have that like Darth Vader moment in like Empire Strikes Back, like the whole reveal that he's Luke Skywalker's father. That would never happen nowadays. You can't do it.
They would just put that right in the trailer.
You can't do it anymore. It sucks. And like that's one of the biggest like moments in like cinema history with like movies and shit is like this whole twist where the villain is like the hero's dad, and like it caught everybody off guard, and like people, it's such an iconic moment. You could never have it anymore though, and that's one thing I hate with like movies these days is you can't do that unless you keep it really, really, really under wraps, which is just almost impossible.
Yeah. That reminds me of the Gogeta thing you sent me the other day. I was cracking up at that.
Oh my god,
Imagine avoiding spoilers for months just to get handed a flyer at the theater. It's like, here you go, sir. It's Gogeta. Front and center on the whole thing.
Yeah, so for context, this person went to go see the last Dragon Ball movie that came out, the Broly movie, and they had avoided spoilers for months and months and months. Had not gone online to see anything about the movie, had not gone on anything just to talk about the movie, whatever. Like, stayed off Twitter, stayed off, social media, obviously, and was like, all right, cool, I'm going to go see the movie. Because it hasn't been spoiled for me still, and I haven't had anything ruined for me. They go to see the movie. They go walking in. They go buy their ticket. They're probably real excited, like, wow, I'm going to finally see the Broly movie. And they buy their ticket, they go in, and the person who's, like, checking their ticket hands them a little flyer thing, or, like, one of those little, like, graphic cards that you can get for, like, those kind of movies sometimes. And it's a picture of Gogeta on it. And that's at the end of the movie. They spoiled the whole movie at the ticket booth.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the trailer, of course, too. He was in, like, the last trailer they did, like, I think 2 weeks before the movie came out. But why?
Exactly. That's like what I was saying. Like,
isn't Broly a big enough selling point?
Yeah, that's a big enough draw where people think he, like... Before they, like, redid his character, people are obviously... I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole just talking about Dragon Ball fans or even anime fans. That's a different breed of people. We need to, like... I would say anime fans, wrestling fans, and a couple other fandoms. We need to just isolate them and then just put them on, like, a deserted island and let them all just... like be rid of each other, because that's what would happen.
It's just the casting couch.
Yes, it is.
I know.
This is I got this at an auction. A little sticky, but
it's like it's gum.
You remember that part in I think it's like the first episode of SpongeBob when Mr. Krabs smells the nematodes and he's like, it's that smelly smell that I'm smelling. Nematodes!
Dude, when I was writing the script for Ratchet Deadlocked the other night, I think it was like 2 a.m. and I was just so tired, but I just wanted to like keep working on it. And I just had like a dumb, like sleepy ha-ha's thought that I might actually do in the video. It's you remember Ace Hardlight? Like
yeah.
The gladiator. Well, I make jokes in there that he looks like Logan Paul, but so He's doing like a promo, and he's like, Ace Hardlight fans, prepare yourselves. I'm gonna make this one messy, or something like that. But,
Is that the actual line in the game?
something like that. But I was gonna cut it off and be like, Ace Hardlight fans, prepare yourselves. I'm gonna come.
Dude, I kind of just want to do a voiceover, and then you put that in the video rather than like the actual line. I'll do that line. Like, it's time for me to come.
Ace Hardlight fans.
Ace Hardlight is hard. He has a light erection.
I was shocked that his voice actor wasn't Steve Bloom.
Steve Bloom.
He's the same guy who voices the thug leader in Ratchet and Clank. He voices...
Oh, Thugs for Less?
Yeah, he voices him. He voices Dempsey from Call of Duty. They sound so similar, but it's not him. I was shocked.
Oh, I know exactly. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I can like remember like Dempsey's voice now, just like him yelling.
Who fucking Rob?
Yeah. I just like remember him yelling at like Kino Der Toten or whatever the map was called.
Yeah.
I missed those games so much. I remember like when I got my PC and stuff, I bought Black Ops 1, and like I just haven't played it.
We tried, but it failed miserably.
I thought that was Fortnite.
Well, we tried Black Ops 2.
We did?
Yeah, I think you kept lagging.
I think it was either that or like I just didn't know how to work the computer correctly to play
Oh,
the game.
yeah.
I think that's what it was, because then like eventually I found out and I was like, wow, that was so easy. And I just made it way more difficult for myself. Or like the settings that I had at first just made it way more difficult for myself. But I remember eventually like figuring out what the problem was, and I was like, that's it. So you never played Deadlocked before?
No.
That's like one of my favorite ones.
Well, I mentioned in the script that the reason I never played it was because as a dumb, stupid kid, I was like, oh, Ratchet Deadlocked. I'm like, where's Clank? This probably sucks then. Like...
So you were
like, no Clank, no deal. I'm not in.
So you were like all about Secret Agent Clank. You're like, no Ratchet, let's go.
Well, I didn't play that because I was like, no Ratchet, I'm not in.
What's the point? It's called Ratchet and Clank.
Exactly. That's why I was like, size matters. Okay.
If there's just Ratchet, then it's not Ratchet and Clank. It's just Ratchet. If it's I was gonna say Super Agent Clank.
Secret Agent Clank.
If it's Secret Agent Clank, where's Ratchet? It's not how these games work. No fucking deal. I'm not playing your goddamn game if it's just Ratchet. If it's just Clank, what the hell is wrong with you? It's in the title. You can't just not have both of them in the game. Also, Secret Agent Clank is awful.
I've heard every person who's played that is like, this is the worst game I've ever played.
I was like so thankful when I looked up, because there's the one trophy website I go on, because now I'm just like a absolute whore for platinum trophies on PlayStation. I don't know, I think that's me becoming an adult, is that I just want to torture myself with video games, not have fun with them anymore. I'd rather just like give myself some sort of like migraine playing a video game rather than just sit back and enjoy it. It has to be a difficult time for me, because that's just being an adult. But I was super thankful when I went on the website that I go on, and I just put in like the Ratchet and Clank games to see, alright, like how many of these games have trophies? And surprisingly, there was a lot less than I expected. Morty.
Oh wait, he said just Ratchet. That's Ratchet as hell.
No Clank? No Clank? No Clank? That's not how this works. How is he gonna jump? How is he gonna do the propeller thing, the helicopter stuff, or do the jetpack? How is he gonna do who's gonna do the Scooby-Doo laugh? The You ever realize that Clank and Scooby-Doo laugh like exactly alike?
Not until you just said that.
I'm telling you, if we pulled it up side by side, they laugh Like, they laugh like exactly the same. Other than like the dog accent that they give Scooby, where he has like where he starts everything with like an R, when he says like raggy or like other terms.
Other terms.
Yeah. Scooby uses an R in other terms.
Scooby is racist.
But I never realized like they seriously laugh like so similar, and it threw me off so hard. Like, you ever have those moments where like something just clicks, or you realize something, and you're like,
wait.
I was like, oh my god, how have I never noticed this? What were we talking about?
Deadlocked, Secret Agent Clank.
Oh, we were talking about the trophies and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I was so glad to see that Secret Agent Clank did not have a platinum trophy or anything. It came out before, I think, the PS3 even came out.
Yeah, it was on PSP and PS2.
It was, I feel like it was like really late PS2 era.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the PS3 was out, but I don't think, I think they were like, you know what? I don't think this needs to be on our current console. I don't think it's worth it.
I think it was because, like, Secret Agent Clank and Size Matters were both PSP games, but they just got ported over to the PS2, so... Actually, no, the PS3 would be able to handle them then, but yeah, why would you want to play that on PS3?
See, Size Matters and Deadlocked are on the PS3. I think they got ported over, like, way after, though. But
yeah, I don't even remember Size Matters being on there.
I only found that out when I recently, like... Because now I'm playing through, like, a bunch of the Ratchet and Clank games. Because I'm like, I'm just going to platinum all of them. Because I have the first one platinumed on PS3. The remake, which is a great game. I don't care what people say. It's fantastic. People are just mad because it's a remake. And it's not exactly the same. And then I have Rift Apart, which is the newest one, which that's fantastic. That is so good. You're going to love playing that. Like, they actually make the hover boots. Not just boots where you lay horizontal and push forward like this, like Superman, but you can't steer. Like in like all the old Ratchet and Clank games. But I'm still trying to get 2, 3, which I'll be streaming on Twitch.tv on this channel this year. And then the future trilogy I want to stream and go through those. Tools of Destruction doesn't have any trophies because it came out before trophies were a thing on PlayStation, which I was actually really disappointed to see.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited to go back and play that one. And then I know...
I'm surprised they couldn't just, like, add trophies in an update or something.
Yeah. I wonder if it's maybe because, like...
They just don't feel like it.
Yeah. Maybe we're like, no, fuck you. There's plenty of Ratchet and Clank games. Get over it. Just deal with it. You don't need it.
Everybody forgets about this one anyway.
Yeah, that's very true. It's weird, like, going into seeing, like, Ratchet and Clank, like rankings. I was looking at articles, not, like, forums or, like, Reddit or, like, whatever. And I would see articles and people would be like, I swear to God, there was, like, somebody who put, Tools of Destruction, like, number 1. But when they talked about the game, they were like, this one's alright. And they, like, I swear to God, they had it in, like, their top 5. It had to be close to number 1 or somewhere around there. But they were just like, this one's okay. Number 1. Tools of Destruction.
I just remember Tools of Destruction being, like, I still really liked it. I still really liked it, but it just was in that awkward transition phase of going away from the PS2 style to what Crack in Time, I feel like, perfected, basically, like, with its story and the writing and all that. Yeah. Like, it really hit, like, that Pixar movie status they were trying to go for, whereas Tools of Destruction was just, like I said, it was just in that awkward transition phase. And so it doesn't get revisited or talked about a lot because it's like, yeah, but we have Crack in Time. Why would you play Tools of Destruction when the completely better one's right there? At least to like a lot of people, I feel like that's how they feel. Like I said, I haven't
Yeah.
played it in so long that I don't entirely remember. It was still really enjoyable, but
Yeah, that was mostly them like playing it safe, kind of like Wrath of Cortex, but they actually went and like finished the game and stuff though too. Unlike Wrath of Cortex, where they're like, all right, this has to go like, but we're not done.
I wouldn't even say they were playing it safe. I think they were just trying to like get their feet wet with it, I guess.
Yeah, with like being
the
on a new
Pixar.
console and everything too.
Yeah, but just like the whole sense of like the writing and everything changed too. Like the writing and just all like just the general direction of where they were going with the story, with the writing. Like the writing's not nearly as dry. It's more like written to be like a Pixar movie. There's more like musical cues and notes and cutscenes and all that, and like I don't know if you ever noticed, but there's like never any music in the old Ratchet cutscenes, like ever. It's always just
oh yeah, it's
nothing.
Just awkward like
yeah, unless they do like the pre-rendered cutscenes, you know.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, like the in-game cutscenes, there's always like no music, so it just gives off, and it's not bad, but it's a different style, and I think
it's more cinematic.
Yeah,
I think. And
Crack in Time is where they really got it right.
And even like the more recent ones, it's definitely gotten like more cinematic in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Where,
Yeah,
like,
there's nothing wrong with it.
No, it's not bad at all. And I think just with like with the hardware and like software and technology that they have, I think like they're able to do more stuff like that too. On the PS2, you can't really do that as much. But like I feel like as time has gone on, you're able to see like especially on the PS5, like the PS4 was cool. I had a lot of fun playing on the PS4, like playing like GTA and Borderlands with like friends and stuff, and other like you had some great games come out like God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn, which the sequel that just dropped yesterday. So this is actually like an awful time for us to be doing this podcast because everybody and their mom is currently streaming Forbidden West. So that is why. That's one reason why no one's here, other than the fact that nobody wants to be here. That's one reason that pretty much for that comment. I would do a hot tub stream. I definitely would. Whenever I get my own place or like my own house or something, I want to get one of those like inflatable hot tubs. You can, dude, they're like $700, which it sounds like I feel like an insane person going, "Oh, that's it, $700." Like for a hot tub, like you could.
It's a hot tub.
Like you could pay your bills with that money.
It's a hot commodity.
I would do that though. I would just sit in the tub and just do a podcast, and we just sit there like exactly like this, but just in a hot tub.
Hello.
I would absolutely do something like that. That would be so much fun. Just the stupid, like things I could get away with, if I was in my own space. If I didn't share a house with our family, the dumb things that would go on in that house.
I thought you were gonna say my dumb family.
If I didn't have my stupid family getting in my way and ruining my life.
I was gonna say, when you were like, "Oh, nobody wants to be here for this stream," I was gonna say, "Am I like the Baron Corbin of Dotman56? Am I a ratings killer? Just drive everybody away."
He's that wrestling heel. He really is.
I don't care what anybody says about him. He blows. I don't care. Like, oh, he's got a good moveset. I don't care.
Edgy ass stream. Have a plugged in toaster catch. That's one of the things I say on stream a lot. Where like, if I'm getting pissed off with a game, I'll be like, I'm taking a toaster bath after stream. Dude, I'm so glad that nobody was awake when I was doing time trials for Crash 4. Just because of the awful things I was saying. Like, I was like, I'm going to go back and delete this VOD. Not that I was, like, saying bad things where it was just, like, I started, like, spewing, like, racial slurs or something.
Just more self-deprecating things.
Yeah, it was, like, bad things about myself where I'm like, this just looks bad if you go back and you're like, damn, he's being really harsh. Like, not like I was just, like,
why does
all
anybody love me?
Yeah, like, I wasn't saying anything, like, where it was actually bad, where it's, like, Twitch would, like, take it down, like, or something that I said. But I would sit there and I would fuck something up and I'd be like, I hope I get hit by a bus tomorrow. Like, I hope I get killed in a car crash tomorrow. Just, like, awful things about myself where I'm like, hope I have a heart attack tomorrow.
Oh, the things I do to get hit by a cheese bus right now.
My car explodes with me in it tomorrow.
Turn the key in the ignition, the car just blows up.
This is fun. This is fun.
We're having a good time, right?
I'm joking. I'm joking. I always have so much fun with stream. Mainly because, like, I'll just say stuff or, like, throw stuff out there. And a lot of times, like, I don't know if my chat just doesn't hear it or, like, they have me on in the background or something. Or, like, they just don't care or something. It just makes it interesting for me because, like, some of the jokes I'll make or, like, even, like, stuff that you say where you're like, dude, I heard you say something when you were streaming today. And you'll tell me, like, you thought it was so funny. But, like, there's these things that I'll say and, like, I get no reaction to them. And I'm like, was that just a bad joke? Did people just not like what I said? Or did just nobody hear it because, like, somebody went to the bathroom or, like they had me on the background or whatever.
I think they just have to have you on in the background, honestly.
I think just nobody actually watches your stream.
It was that game you're playing, or you were playing
when I was playing Spider-Man.
Was it Spider-Man? I thought it was still We Happy Few.
That could
yeah,
be
I think
it
was Spider-Man. It was something about, like, some mom.
He said it makes me feel like my mom's still here. And I said,
what part of your mom? Her fat ass.
Yeah, he said, it makes me feel like part of my mom is still here. I said, oh, what part of her fat ass? He's talking about his dead mom. And, like, it was just like, I think Mage said something. Because Mage is, like, always here other than right now because he obviously hates me. But I think he put, like, the lol emote or whatever. I don't remember, but it was either that or just crickets. And I'm like, that's not funny. It's not even worth, like, a dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, even if I don't get a laugh out of it, if I can at least get, like, a what is wrong with you reaction out of somebody, it's fun for me.
What do I gotta say? A slur?
Alright, chat, I've resorted to racism. I've resorted to political propaganda. You know, I kind of wanted to, like, open this podcast and just everything I say is a complete lie. Like, I wanted to start the podcast and be like, guys, I was so honored when my brother asked me to do this podcast with him. He said, we're going to talk politics. We're going to talk civil rights issues. We're going to talk about the pandemic. We're going to talk about everything that everybody wants to talk about all the time. We're going to talk about the radical left. The radical left.
Anytime I hear the word radical thrown in front of anything, it just makes it 10 times funnier.
It's just people who are liberals skateboarding. Like, I just picture somebody like this skateboarding and then just talking about politics or something. They're like, dude, the radical left. And you just hear, like, a guitar solo in the background when they're talking. Oh, posture check. This is a good time for posture check. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube or anything, because of the chat box being on the screen, it doesn't bring up channel point redemptions. So, when people redeem stuff, you're not going to be able to see it. Like, somebody redeemed Chair Stream, which we're not going to do Chair Stream right now.
Why not?
I could if I really wanted to, but I think that would just be, it wouldn't work for this. It works when I'm streaming, which I think I've shown you that before,
That's just when it's like the blank chair just sitting there, basically.
Yes.
The empty chair.
But what makes it so good is I fit it into my camera overlay and everything.
Yeah, but you still keep talking.
Yeah, but I'm still there talking, and the game is still being played. But it's like, I have people who are like, dude, that is so funny. I actually had somebody who said, like, can I use this idea? They seriously said to me, like, can I use this idea? And I said, go for it. Like, I love it. I hope you enjoy it and have fun with it. Because it's the fact, too, that, like, it's different for everybody because not everybody obviously has the same chair. Like you can like have your own setup and stuff, and that's one of the things that makes it fun too. But for anybody watching this who has not seen Chair Stream on my broadcasts, so what Chair Stream is it's a redemption where I take my camera overlay and I replace the camera feed of me with a picture of my chair. And it's not just a picture of my chair. It is exactly what you would see when I'm streaming and when I'm sitting there playing the game. But I'm not there. So it's just the chair by itself. But the game is still being played. It's a still picture of the chair. And it's the game being played. But it just looks like I'm not there. But the game is still happening. Give the casting couch a face and do it for a minute. That would be clever. I'll do one for you for the next one. How about that? Because I don't have anything prepared, so that's going to take a minute. But what makes Chair Stream so good is the illusion that the game is being played without somebody there. That's what makes it so good, because somebody could come in who's never seen it before, and they go, what the fuck is happening? What? This guy's playing Spider-Man PS4. He's beating up bad guys. He's swinging around the city. There's nobody here. How is this happening? There's nobody there. It's the illusion that the chair is playing the game. And it works, and it's so ridiculous because chairs can't play games. And that is what makes it so fun. And it got, especially last year, because it was pretty big in my stream from like January to maybe like March. It got so much more fun because we started putting more things onto the picture of the chair. So we would put eyes and we would put a mouth and teeth and stuff. And it got to a point where we put arms on it, so it looked like this, like it was like a fucking like child molester or something. Like it was coming to like diddle you.
Diddle you?
But it just looked like super freaky and everything too. And then the eyes were like bloodshot eyes, so he looked super cracked out and everything too. And it just got even better as time went on. And then I think we even like what was it? We like deep fried the picture. It just looked absolutely ridiculous. But it's probably my favorite thing that I've ever come up with for like a channel point redemption. Because I'm always trying to think of new ideas, because I think that's one of the things with, especially with Twitch is so oversaturated, and unlike YouTube, Twitch revolves around mostly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I tell people this a lot, having been on Twitch for so long, and, you know, obviously being like a Twitch megastar that I am, and having like 2 viewers on average per stream, I'm a big deal. So I know what I'm talking about. But I tell people all the time, like, if you want to like stand out on Twitch and like move ahead, unless your commentary is like just that good and you're that charismatic and everything, you gotta have something that's like, you gotta have something that makes you stand out and something that's different.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always trying to think of like just little gags and bits and just like stupid
just little things that people can remember you by.
Yeah, and just like stupid things that I can do. So like Chair Stream, and then I have like when I do posture checks on stream, like posture check is just a regular thing that people do, but like what makes it like so enjoyable for people and why I constantly receive posture check redemptions on my channel is because I do it so ridiculously and so exaggerated to the point where I'm like screaming into the microphone as I'm doing it and stretching like insanely, just like super over exaggerated, that it just makes it funny for people. And like just little things like that I feel like makes one, makes Twitch fun for me, but 2, makes my channel stand out a little bit and makes it more enjoyable and enticing for people to come back and see it again, because they're like, just the shit that I do on there, I think it's entertaining for the most part.
Yeah, that's what matters. It's all about doing what you find fun, what you find entertaining, because if you're just forcing things, people, they can see right through that sometimes, you know? And that's just not good, because then that's when you get the stuff like, oh, you're trying too hard to be funny, or, you know, stuff like that, you know what I mean?
That's true. I think people will see, like, right through that, like you were saying, though, too. I think people can really tell when, like, you're being genuine and you're just having fun, and I think people can tell when you're just like, hey, and you just make, like, some current meme joke, but you're just saying it just to say it because it's like a relevant thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or an outdated one, which that's even worse. like if somebody's just like, "Hey, how about Harambe?" And it's like, like, dude, that was like 8 years ago.
I have always hated Harambe. Always thought it was... That sounds wrong. Not the monkey.
Jared just goes, I always hated him, even before he died. I was so glad when that kid jumped into the exhibit and they mowed that fucker down.
I never thought the memes were funny. I don't know. Me thinking Ace Hardlight yelling, I'm gonna come is hilarious, but Harambe just doesn't do it for me.
I think the meme that was like that for me was the Knuckles, Uganda Knuckles one. I never liked that one. I hated that one beyond belief. And this coming from a guy who thought fucking right in the pussy was like the pinnacle of comedy. And that I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is lazy.
Really, just like the years I was in high school, from around like 2015 to 2017, like memes are awful. They were bad. Because then that's when you had the frog on the unicycle. You had Damn Daniel. You had Uganda Knuckles. And I'm sure there's plenty more that I forgot. But every month there would be something new. And I was like, none of these are funny. Like, the fuck?
See, that's like the total opposite for me. Because, I mean, obviously, even though we're only 2 years apart, for school and stuff, my senior year was your freshman year. So we were a couple years, like a handful of years apart, really, when it came to school. But I remember, like, high school, I feel like memes were, like, way funnier when I was in high school. I'm trying to remember, like, some of the big ones, too. But I remember, I do remember, like, fucking right in the pussy was, like, probably my favorite one.
I totally forgot about that.
I love that one so much. I completely
forgot about
it. The thing that makes that one so good is the fact that it didn't just stop at like that initial video. A second video with the same guy came out, and then they did an interview with the guy like on TV or on YouTube. Like they had an actual interviewer go out and speak to him, and just be like, "What's up with you? Like why are you doing this?" And he was just like, because. Why not? And they were like, okay. He goes, yeah, fuck her right in the pussy. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And that's what makes it so funny. Like, I love when you see, like, a meme, like, almost create, like its own, like, little world within itself. And, like, that's, I feel like, what makes, like, some memes, like, so enjoyable. It's, like, become, like, it sprouts into something more than like what it initially was, and that's why like that one was like one of my favorite ones. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. This was like, see, this is around the time that like Vine was still around too. Do you remember the one? You remember the one where the dude's like getting in his friend's face? He calls him a motherfucking
yeah,
and he's just like. It's funny because it cuts off right at that part, but if you watch like the whole video, they're like, "What?" They're like all confused, like,
"What did you just say?"
Yeah, and it's funny because at first they were like, "Yeah, that's right, he's a motherfucking," and they're like, "What does that mean?" They're like, "What are you even talking about?" But like all the edits that like come out of that were like so funny to me, especially like the ones with like the race cars, and it's the race cars coming around, it's just motherfucking, they're all coming around. I miss like that era of memes. Half of those videos ended up being like my initial like alerts on Twitch. I don't think like fucker right in the pussy was one. But I remember the motherfucking that was one that I had on there for a while. That was like my my initial alerts back when I started streaming like 17. It's still so weird to think I've been like at it for so long. Even with like the breaks and stuff I've taken, I'm like, damn, I've been at this for a long time.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, I wasn't doing YouTube basically for like 3 years at one point, from like 2016 to 2019. Came back, did a couple videos, and then was like, nah, still don't want to do this.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the parts that makes it like kind of like discouraging for me. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I haven't consistently done it for 7 years. If I had consistently been streaming for 7 years and I was like where I'm at now, like how many viewers I'm at, I would be very discouraged because I'd be like, I'm just like making no progress. But it's like, I feel like what was it? Probably like early 2020. I was like, you know what? I'm getting back to streaming and I'm gonna really give it a hard try and like stick with it. And the past like 2 years, 2.5 years, I feel like I've really like hit it hard because I'm on a schedule too. Like I do Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Which the thing for me was like, I always used to wonder like, why do I get so burnt out on streaming? And it's like, oh well, probably because I streamed 75 hours in the past like 5 days. Maybe that's why I'm getting tired of it, because I'll stream for 12 hours a day every day, and then be like, oh, I'm kind of tired of this. I don't think I want to do this for about another year, and then I would just disappear. But it's like when you do shit like that, like you're basically resetting every time you do that, because you have to stick with it, because people's attention spans, like, they're not just gonna wait around for you. Like, you obviously have some people who will, but people will forget about you rather quickly if you let them.
Yeah.
So that's one thing like I think about with streaming and stuff now, is that I'm like, well, for the 2 years or so that I've really gotten back into it and have really like hit it hard, I feel like I've done like pretty well for myself, and I'm happy with like the body of work that I've laid out, and like the playthroughs that I've done and the streams that I've done. I'm really happy with like what I've accomplished in the past couple years, like as a streamer. Even if like I'm not partnered, like my goal is to be partnered by like the end of like 2025. I think that's even in my Twitter bio still. I put that in there. That's just like a goal for me.
Yeah.
Is like I would love to reach Twitch partner. That's something I would love to do, because I just have so much fun doing like content creation and stuff, and just streaming in general. Like, I love doing commentary on games. I love just pointing out stupid things and just talking about the game. And I feel like I have come a long way too when it comes to commentary, where I'm not just like saying stupid stuff the whole time, but I can make like more clever remarks that you're not gonna hear.
You're not just like filling dead air just for the sake of filling it.
Yeah, like I'll sit here and I'll just be myself. And I think before, when I first started, I think I did try a little bit too hard. But you just like look at the progress and stuff too. Like you look at like how it looks, how it sounds, and everything. And like I go back and look at like my old stuff, and I'm like, dude, this looks and sounds awful. Like I still have highlights from like 2014 and stuff. Like I have a handful of highlights, and I'm like, good lord, this sounds terrible. Like it was back when like I was still streaming in the garage and everything, back in the good old days. And I was using like my laptop microphone, and you could hear me, but it sounded so bad and like so unclear. And like I look at my streams now, and like I'm always trying to like up the production value of them. But then I think too, I'm like, what else like can I do that makes my stream look even better? Like I have a really, like, I love my camera. I have a good camera. I have a good microphone.
Good capture card.
Good lighting and everything. I'm like, I don't really think there's much else I can do outside of just making more content.
Yeah, now it's like you said, it's about that, and then just doing whatever you can to make your stream stand out creatively, because like you said, aesthetically, I mean, it's pretty much as good as it's gonna get at this point. So just about creating like little gimmicks and whatnot that can help you stand out more. But I'm very lucky that people have the patience to wait around a month or two for my videos. Like if I could do this full time, I probably would be able to put out videos like every 2 weeks, but unfortunately I can't do that. But you know, like I hated how much of a gap there was in videos like last summer, for example, but it was never like laziness. It was just I was working so much, and that's why I was going like 2.5, 3 months without uploading. But now I'm doing as much as I can to get ahead before I start really working again and all that.
Well, plus you do all your own editing and everything too. Like you know, like you look at like some other people who do reviews and like just topic videos for like gaming and stuff like that. A lot of them probably have editors that they pay
Yeah.
to do their stuff, and like that's another tough thing too. Is like it depends like who does your editing, because I think for me, like of course I would love to like pay somebody to do editing if I was making a video, but at the same time like I wouldn't say I'm like a control freak, but like I get to a point where I'm like I'm very particular like how I want things
Yeah.
on my videos. I'm like I know what I want and like I have a vision in my head, and if it's not exactly how I want it to look, I'm gonna be bothered by it. And I
I'm
feel
the
like you're
same
the
way.
yeah I would say I
Mhm.
feel like you're the same way, and like even if you were able to get an editor, I feel like you would still just do your own videos because like you know what you want, and I think you like all the different things you put into your videos too. I think it would be tough for you to try and like convey that to somebody and get exactly what you want out of that person.
Yeah, and I don't mind all the work that goes into my videos. Like, I love it. I take a lot of pride in how hard I work on them and everything, you know? Like, I wouldn't want to pay somebody to do the editing for me because I just love editing in the first place. So, but yeah, I'm trying to get ahead as much as I can. And right now I'm doing a really good job because I mean I just posted Twinsanity on Monday and the voiceover's already cut up and everything for the next video. I could probably have it done by next weekend if I really pushed for it. So
Yeah,
who
I did
knows?
see when you were posting on Patreon. I was like, damn, dude, he's like blowing through this.
Yeah.
Like, cause you just put out Twin Sanity a couple days ago, and then I was like, he's already like almost finished or like halfway done, like doing Deadlocked. But that's a good sign though too.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see that one.
And it's not going to be a super long video because the voiceover was like 16 minutes. I have some cutscene clips I'm going to put in, so overall it'll be like 18. So obviously, you know, Twinsanity was like 27 minutes. Far Cry 3 was 37, so a lot shorter. So it shouldn't be too hard to get through. But I'm really excited. I loved Deadlocked. It was
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
I feel like it's just like a no bullshit game. It's just oh, you like the you know, like the arena sections in Ratchet 2 and 3. Here's a whole game of it.
Yeah.
I remember like us growing up like loving those sections of those games. So you take Deadlocked and it's like it's just all like the gladiator stuff. That's like the whole game.
Mhm.
And that's so much fun. That's why I always liked going back and playing that. Maybe it's not like the best Ratchet and Clank game or Ratchet game. Clank is in it, by the way. It's just it was,
I was gonna say, like out of like the first 4 Ratchet games, like how would you rank them? 1, 2, 3, and Deadlocked.
that's tough. I think I'll definitely have a ranking once I finish 2 and 3 and then play Deadlocked again. Because I just haven't played them in so long. I
I
always
did
remember
have to buy it, by the way.
what
we didn't-
Deadlocked.
Yeah, we didn't have it on PS3.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's weird. I could have sworn that I had that like added to my library or something.
The only real complaint I would say I have for Deadlocked is it's not even Deadlocked's fault. It's just that the PS3 port blows.
thought you
Like
were-
cutscenes are like constantly like the characters just randomly like jitter all over the place. Characters' faces gets like distorted sometimes. Anybody who's wearing glasses, you can literally see right through their head to like the background. Like that's the only complaint I have is that the port was terribly done.
I thought you were just gonna say, "There's no Clank, no Clank, no deal." I hate this game. There's no Clank.
But I would probably say it's honestly the older I get, the more I really love Ratchet 1. So it's
Yeah.
like it's creeping up there. Like it probably would honestly pass 2 for me someday, but for right now, 2's still my favorite. Then 1, then Deadlocked, then 3. And I love all of them. But I was not expecting to have as much fun as I did playing Deadlocked. Like I thought I would still really like it. Of course, it's Ratchet, but
Yeah.
just because there was the direction that 3 was heading, like it was heading in a more combat based approach, and it was kind of neglecting all like the planet exploration and all that. I just felt like it had a very weak balance. Like, compared to 2, for example. Like, 2 still has amazing levels, in my opinion. The combat's still really fun. And it's where it took, like, a big step forward compared to, like, 1, for example. But Deadlocked, it becomes, like, not about exploring planets or anything at all. It's just about just beating the shit out of people.
Yeah, it's just taking the gladiator sections in the Ratchet and Clank games when you go to, like, the B2 Brawler.
Yeah.
It's a whole game of that, and I love that. Because it knows its audience. Like, if you're into that part of the game, like, you're gonna love this. Like, it's not for everyone. And that's, like, one thing with it. Like, I'm never gonna say, like, oh, it's the best Ratchet and Clank game. But if this is what you like, you're gonna love this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my thing is, of course, I love the combat, I love the exploration and all that, but I more so prefer the, like, the exploration and all that stuff. So obviously going into Deadlocked, you're not doing any of that, so that alone kind of, like, had me going into this mindset like I wasn't probably gonna like it as much.
Yeah.
But the combat is so much fun in Deadlocked that it just totally makes up for it.
It's just brainless fun.
Yeah.
Even more than the regular. It's even more than the regular games. It's just like mindless, brainless fun. You can turn your brain off and just shoot things the whole time.
Like, it's so much fun, and I wasn't expecting it to, like, be as funny as it was either, because it's supposed to be, like, the darkest entry, like, in the franchise. And because it's, you know, the mid-2000s and everything's getting all edgy and all that with games, like, I was just expecting it to be, like, more no-nonsense and not cracking jokes as much and everything. But instead, it is cracking jokes even more. But this time, like, they kind of, like, with the original Ratchet games, like, 1 and 2 especially, like, it's basically about how evil everybody in the galaxy is, but they twist it in a way where it's like, no, we're doing the right thing. We're doing the good thing. Whereas Deadlocked, everybody's like, I'm an asshole, and I know. Like, I know.
Yeah, I get it.
Like, there's the one mission where you're on planet Orxon, I think, and you, like, blow up this oil rig, and the announcer's like, wow, who would have known that would kill all these people? I did!
I remember the announcers being really funny in that game. I think that was another thing I enjoyed about the game, was just, like, the announcers were even just like, wow, all these people are dead. Isn't this fun? Where everyone in that game is, like, a bad person, and that's one thing that makes it, like, so good, is, like, they're all in agreement. Like, yeah, we're all bad people. So they have all these people together, and they're just doing bad things all together. And it's not like this tug and pull of, like, bad versus evil. It's just this whole, like, everybody sucks. And it's just fun because it's like, yeah, we're just going to kill things, and it's going to be fun.
And even the final level, spoilers, I guess, like, when Ratchet goes to, like, the control center to try and free all the heroes and everything, Vox catches on to what he's doing. So he basically ignites, like, this self-destruct sequence for the ship, and Ratchet's like, you're gonna kill all the heroes and the fans in attendance? And Vox is like, no, you are, if you don't get moving! Like, he's like, I'm not doing anything, this is your fault. I love Vox. I think he's so funny. Like, he's honestly probably my favorite Ratchet and Clank villain after playing Deadlocked.
Really?
Yeah. Because another, one of my favorite parts is, like, after Ratchet kills, Logan Paul, and...
Ratchet kills Logan Paul.
After he kills him, he goes to Vox's office, because Vox is basically trying to make him, like, the new face of Dead Zone, and Vox is, like, congratulating him and everything, and Ratchet's like, you guys have been slandering me on TV every 6 seconds. And Vox is like, oh, I'm just building up your bad boy persona. Like, this is the thanks I get. Ratchet's like, whatever.
I do remember that. I haven't played that game in so long, but, like, I do remember that. I also like how you said, "Oh, just saying, spoilers, guys," for a game from like 2000.
You never know. You never know. People are so fickle with spoilers.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of complaints from our PR department. Mom's gonna pull us aside, guys. Come on, I need to talk to you. People did not like. Guys. People are not happy. You spoiled Ratchet Deadlocked. Mom, it's a 17-year-old game. I know. But look,
You're catching a lot of flack.
yeah, we're getting a lot of angry callers because they said I haven't played Ratchet Deadlocked yet. I was gonna start it this weekend. A lot of pissed off people about Ratchet Deadlocked.
Yeah, you never know. That's why even like doing the Far Cry 3 video, I was like, this game's like 10 years old, but I'll put a spoiler warning. Just because like, it's one thing if, you know, you're playing Crash or Spyro or Sly or whatever. It's like, those games are so old. And they're cartoon platformers. How much do you really care? Whereas Far Cry 3 is like, you know, it's a more realistic game and all that. I was like, whatever. Just to be safe, I'll say spoilers. I don't know.
You know what I wrote? You know what's one of the things I wrote down for this podcast? I was thinking for the intro too, we could just talk about famous brothers throughout history and like why we're better than them. Like the Wright brothers, like they invented the plane. I was gonna be like, I was just gonna say how we're better than them. Like they invented planes, but I was just gonna tarnish them and like be like, their plane wasn't that good though. Like they suck. We're cooler than them.
Did they ever reach 500 subscribers? I don't think so.
No, they didn't. I mean, they're also dead. We have that on them. We're alive. We're breathing. We're living people in today's day and age. Like what did you do back then?
They must have been weak.
If they were so talented and so good, why'd they die then? Just don't die. It's that easy.
It's not hard.
Yeah, I had a couple things down. I had famous brothers throughout history. And it is funny too because we've been because you've been mentioning Logan Paul.
The Paul.
You
brothers.
think if this podcast gets big enough, we could set up like a boxing match, like us versus the Paul brothers? But it's like a 2-on-2. It's a 2-on-2 boxing match, and it's like a tornado tag match in wrestling. So we both just beat the shit out of each other, and like it has to end in like knockout. But instead of like, oh, if one of you guys gets knocked out, it's over. It could be like a steel cage match, like a tag team cage match, where both people have to get out of the cage. So we could do a boxing match, but both people have to be knocked out. So think about it. You could knock out one person, like say we're fighting or whatever, and like, I don't know, this would never happen, but one of them happened to knock me out. It would never happen, but somehow they managed to maybe get like, hit, like, you know, sneak me one, sucker punch me before the match starts. I get knocked out. Now, this, like I said, it's just hypothetical. It's an example. Now, you have to fight both at the same time. So now, the two of them are just pummeling you. Just pummeling you. I think people would definitely watch that. You imagine like just being broadcast for like millions of people, and you're just getting the shit beat out of you by both Paul brothers at the same time, or vice versa. What if we both beat the shit out of one of the Paul brothers? I think that would make for good content, and then we could have them on the podcast because our podcast is better than theirs. I know Logan Paul, I think, has his own podcast, but the thing is, like, ours is.
I didn't know, so it must not be good.
Exactly, and that's the thing is, like, ours is just better. Also, did Logan Paul or did either of them ever hit 500 subscribers? Yeah. They did. They hit a lot more than 500.
A long time ago.
They hit a lot more than 500 subscribers.
But to hit that in 2022 in a much more competitive era.
Competitive market. It's like saying, it's like talking about like Babe Ruth being like, yeah, but did he ever face any good players? Like, yeah, maybe you hit 755 home runs or whatever. Who did he face? Some Joe Schmo off the street? Some dude who worked second shift at Wawa?
Babe Ruth, allow me to introduce you to Max Scherzer.
Dude, I wish, like, we could see something like that. Can you imagine Babe Ruth going up and just, like, imagine you get, like, a time machine. You just pull Babe Ruth out of, like, you know, the 1920s or whatever. You bring him to present day, and you're just like, all right, Babe Ruth, step in the box. And you bring in, like, Max Scherzer. You bring in DeGrom, like, somebody, like, Randy Johnson. That would be a perfect one. Randy Johnson, because he throws heat, and he also has that fucking insane slider.
And he's a lot taller than people from back then.
True. And he's also massive. You bring in Randy Johnson against, like, Babe Ruth. He steps in the batter's box and you're like, because there's of course
the horns and
yeah, well, there's of course like swing music and like jazz music playing because back then you had background music during daily life where like there was always background music during daily life. So in the 1920s and 30s, you always had jazz music playing wherever you went. It just naturally played. So he gets in the box.
Here comes Babe Ruth up to the box.
Yeah, here comes Babe Ruth. The greatest of all time. Coming to play against this up-and-coming pitcher. And then here comes Randy Johnson, throws like 150 miles an hour. And you just hear Babe Ruth, what the fuck, dude? All right, this guy can throw a little fast, huh? And then he's like, all right, he throws his slider. So Babe Ruth's in the box. Randy Johnson throws it towards his knees, and it ends up in like the dugout on the other side. What the hell, man? What is that?
You completely missed the zone.
I just imagine everybody from back then just talking like Peter Griffin.
Yeah.
Everybody just sounds like Peter Griffin back then, and then there's always jazz music or like swing music playing without anybody actually playing it. Like it's just naturally in the background. That's what I think about when like the 1920s and 30s and stuff. That's just how I imagine it.
Yeah, no, so do I. Babe Ruth, prepare yourself.
I always find it so tough to have those kind of like discussions with sports, especially with baseball. Because
what about jazz music in the background?
Well, yeah, because it's kind of one of the things, you know, people talk about, like, baseball today isn't as good as it used to be. Yeah, because we don't have the jazz music that used to just be around all the time. When you had black and white screens, there was always jazz and swing music. Now you don't have that. You don't have background music like that anymore. It's just real life now. Now we're in a world where you have colors on your TV screen. It's not the same anymore. But I always think about, like, when people talk about, like, who's the greatest baseball player of all time? That is such a tough, like, question to answer because baseball is so different in each era of the game. It's not like hockey and, like, other sports. They, of course, yeah, they change, but I don't think they change as drastically as baseball does because the athletes change so drastically.
Yeah.
Football, I can't really speak on too much because I'm still, like, rather new to football because I've only been watching it a couple years and I don't know the history of football that well. But you just look at baseball and, like, the way that it's changed and, like, the way that the athletes are. Like we were saying, like, you had Babe Ruth and, like, you look at, like, the best baseball player today, like, Mike Trout, and, like, he is, like, the face of baseball. Like, he's a premier athlete. He's super, like, in great shape and everything. And then you just had, like, Babe Ruth, who would just fucking eat cigars for breakfast and drink 25 beers and then just step into the batter's box and just hit bombs every day. It is so different.
Yeah.
And it's tough to discuss because it's like, well, it kind of, like, makes you think, like, what was the skill level back then compared to now? Would he still be successful today if he was, versing, like we were just saying, like a Randy Johnson, yeah, or like a Max Scherzer, or would he just be some fat fuck who plays baseball and and like would he be any good still? But even like other eras, like there's so much that's different. Like you have like the steroid era too, and just the different kinds of athletes. It's such a tough question to answer. And I was talking with with my buddy Jared about it. I'm like, well, it depends what you value too. Like football, you want to talk about like, okay, who's the greatest of all time? And that can be a tough question too. But most times that's based around championships, so most people will be like, oh, Tom Brady, because he's got 7 championships. But like baseball, it's like, well, what stat do you consider to be the most important? And that can be like very subjective, depending on people. Like, oh, is the home run the most important thing in baseball? Is it your batting average? How many hits you have? Is it like I even say like Ricky Henderson's another one who should be considered in that discussion, because the man just created runs.
Mm-hmm.
Like people forget he's the all-time runs leader as much as he is the stolen base leader.
Yeah.
Like people be like, oh, he stole the most bases, but he also scored the most runs, and that's how you win a baseball game is you generate runs, and he scored more runs than anybody else. Like yeah, Babe Ruth had X amount of 700 plus home runs. Ricky Henderson, I don't even know how many runs he had. I don't want to just be like, oh, he had 27 billion runs. I don't want to like give an overinflated number, but
I think he had 6.
He had 6. Scored 6 runs.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. That's more than I ever scored in the big leagues. That's probably more than I ever scored in just regular baseball.
Uh-oh.
Guys, we have our first guest on the podcast. Get up here, buddy.
Claude. What's up, buddy? Claude Cam.
I've thought about getting like a Claude Cam.
Just put it like a camera underneath the desk for
Problem
when he
is
just
that
sits
like
there.
problem is like he does not stay still ever. So I was like, I would have to get like a GoPro and just attach it to him, and then it's just him running around the house in the corner.
All right, good seeing you.
It's our first guest. He didn't even answer any questions. I was trying to think. I was gonna be like, Claude, we have some riveting questions to ask you. Let me see what stuff I had, because we did have stuff from my Discord that people had asked. Gaming hopes and dreams. I think the obvious one for me is obviously Spider-Man 2 on PS5, which that's already happening, and I'm so excited for that. I want more Crash games. I really do.
Yeah.
I want another Spyro game, but I want it to be nothing like Spyro 3.
Exactly.
But it deserves like a
It does. I do
Crash
really
treatment.
I do really want a Spyro 4. That'll make me feel not as guilty when it's the best game in the series. Then I can say, see, now it has 2 good games.
Yeah. Yeah, like even like I always think about like with Crash and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, we got Crash 4, but like yeah, we got CTR, but like Spyro got a remaster, and then they were like, all right, that's it.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, they remastered the games. I'm like, dude, Crash got like so much more though. Like
Yeah.
even if I want more, I'm like,
Deservedly.
I can't really complain because like we already got so much. Like I said, like CTR and then Crash 4, like we did get a lot of good stuff, like with the Crash remasters and everything. But like Spyro, like it really does deserve some kind of like new installment or something.
Yeah. It definitely does. And if, I'm assuming when Crash 5 ever comes out, I definitely would want it to take a more open approach like Twinsanity. I think that would be really good. Because I really don't see them doing another like map-based, warp room-based structure. I think they really should do something more open world. And all the ideas that like the Twinsanity people had, I'm sure they would be happy to like, contribute some of those in some way or like reform them to make them work for a Crash 5. Like, I think that would be awesome if it was more open world. So, that or just a straight up Twinsanity reimagining, reworking with all this cut content that they had. It will never happen, but it would be amazing if it did.
It's fun to think about it.
Yeah. I just hope Elder Scrolls 6 comes out in my lifetime. They put out that announcement trailer, I think in like 2018, I'm not sure anything has been revealed, talked about since. I know Starfield's coming out
They'll
in
just
November, so
yeah, they'll just be like, oh, this is coming out like in a month.
yeah.
That's what they'll do. They'll just wait till they're done and be like, all right, it's gonna come out now. I still got to go back and play Skyrim.
I've been thinking about it a lot lately. Just once in a while. It's the same thing with Pokemon. You just get a random Pokemon itch. I get that with Skyrim.
Exactly.
I'm just like, oh, okay, it's time to play Skyrim again.
See, I tried Oblivion and I just did not like it. I think some of those games though too, it's like if you don't play them like when they came out, you're just not gonna get it. And I think that's one of those games where like I just don't get it because like it's just, you know, X amount of years it's been out now, and like the games that I've played make it tough for me to go back to a game like that and just enjoy it because it's so simplistic at times and like just so different than like what I play, because some games are like so far ahead like graphically and
yeah.
like gameplay wise. I tried to like it. There was just like so many times where I was like, I'm walking around actively trying to find things to do and like just struggling to actually find things to do. And that was like the only thing that I got frustrated with the game. But I think Skyrim I do need to go back and give it a try at some point.
See, that specifically is one of the reasons I love Far Cry 5 so much, is because something is always happening. You're getting jumped by somebody, constantly blowing something up. Like, it's such a crazy game, but it's so much fun. Like, I see so many people, like, oh, there goes Ubisoft just dumping out another game again, another Far Cry game. I'm like, all these games are fucking good.
Yeah,
like,
they're
you
all
just complain
fun,
about
though.
everything. Like
Ubisoft does suck, but like they know like what to do with Far Cry.
yeah.
It doesn't take a lot.
And the thing too is it's like, okay, if they keep putting out the same thing, people keep buying it. People keep playing it. So why
Yeah.
would they change anything?
People keep enjoying them.
like I know I'm in I don't want to say the minority, but like it's just a lot of people at least started with Far Cry 3, or that's where the series really blew up and got more mainstream. So ever since then, it just feels like you're getting the same thing. But for me, because I started out with 5 and then went to 6 and now to 3. Well, I started out with Primal and then did 5. And so I basically started in like the middle of the decline, basically. But I just think they're all great in one way or another. Like, of course, a lot of the gameplay is the same, but it's like a lot of Crash gameplay is the same. It's just there's different spins to it. There's different themes to it in each game, and I think that's totally fine because it's still a lot of fun. So, like Far Cry 3 feels very unique, even though it's in a lot of ways the same game as Far Cry 6 and vice versa. And Far Cry 5 feels very samey as the other Far Cry games, but it also still feels very unique because of certain things, whether it's the music or the storyline, the setting, little tweaks they make to the gameplay to freshen things up. Like, I think they're all great one way or another.
Yeah, there's not much to really change with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like I think like it's one of those cases where like they know their audience, like they know what people want.
Yeah.
Like so, it's like, well, why would you go and like really change much? There's not much to change.
Mm-hmm.
And like even when I was like watching a review for Far Cry 6, I was like, dude, the story's actually like pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know people complain about that sometimes, but it's legit just like again like one of those games where you can kind of just like turn your brain off and just go and have fun.
Yeah.
And like just do stuff with it.
Yeah, it's weird since I'm a game reviewer to say sometimes you just need to turn your brain off and just play the game, because it's just true. Like Far Cry 6's story can get a little messy and like it tries to do a little too much sometimes, but overall like there's a good story there, and I really like the message that they were trying to send with it, which is basically like, does the end justify the means? Like that was like the whole theme of the story basically. And I love the whole story for Far Cry 3. I felt it was tighter and it had its own like cool message too. Like that was a story that was more up my alley, but both stories I think are really good. So, and even Far Cry 5, I think Far Cry 5 is a really interesting story, and it has a very different vibe compared to the rest of the Far Cry games because it's like this totally out there. It's in Montana and it's in like this like it just has a very wacky story in a way.
Yeah.
And even like all the people in the game are wacky. Like you run into a bunch of conspiracy theorists and like all this other crazy stuff that you don't normally do in Far Cry games.
Yeah, just all your typical people from the Midwest. Everyone's like that in real life in the Midwest.
Yeah.
That's exactly how all of them are. Anybody who lives in the country, that's how they all are. I just like the part of Far Cry 6 with when he comes
on the boat
with Anton. It's like, should never get on that fucking boat. I just love the way he says it.
Never step foot on this fucking boat.
Like I just love the way he whispers it, and he's like so passive aggressive. Or I mean, I can't say passive aggressive. That's just aggressive, just quietly. I mean, if you say you should have never stepped on this fucking boat, like, no, that's just aggressive. I just want to say passive aggressive.
And then I love how right after that he's like, Diego has such compassion for his people.
Yeah, it's so funny because you can like, everyone on the boat can clearly hear him like fucking like whispering, but like scolding his son, and then he turns around and he's like, "I love my boy,
yeah,
I love him,
my Mijo."
Yeah. I know for a fact that like whenever I have kids, I'm gonna call them Mijo, like just because of that game. Just like I'm gonna play hide and seek with my kids someday, like at the house, or like they'll be like doing whatever, and I'll go look for them. I have found you, Mijo. I cannot wait to say that someday. That's gonna be so much fun to me. And then because they're gonna be too young to understand the reference, I'm gonna walk straight up to them and just go, "You should have never come in this fucking kitchen." They're gonna be like, "Dad, what are you talking about?" Insert child's name. Has such compassion
for his people.
That game is like so unintentionally funny.
Oh, I know.
I love stuff that's supposed to be serious, but it ends up being funny just because I'm so stupid and my brain is just wired in a way where I find really serious things really funny at times.
Like I had an exact moment like that playing Deadlocked, where Ace, like, so Al is trying to like get the deadlocked collars off of Clank and Ratchet, and he gets it off Clank, and Ratchet's like, "Al, you're a genius," and Al's like, "I know," and then he just gets shot, and Ratchet's like, "No!" It's so funny.
I think
because it's Al that makes it at least 50% funnier. Because he just goes, "Ah!"
I think specifically for me, when I think about stuff like that, right away I go straight to The Walking Dead. So, for those listening to this, I'm sure everybody here knows about the Walking Dead series on AMC. And so I mean, it's over now, right? Did they just end it, or
this is the final season going on right
now?
now?
How long has this final season been going on? I feel like
I think the second half is starting.
Oh yeah, I forgot they take breaks and shit in between.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, that was a very critically acclaimed show throughout like the first 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And then after that, it just
once it was like
started going downhill.
Yeah, weirdly enough, once Negan showed up, who is like one of the best characters on the show, is also the same time where it just totally nosedived in quality.
Yeah. So
it's so weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those things where it's like he's a great character and he's done really well, but he's a good part in a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know, he's like a diamond in the rough. He's that kind of character. But anyway, so I started watching The Walking Dead a couple years ago. But what I did, I took a little bit of a different approach to this show. Rather than, go, I'm going to watch The Walking Dead. Let me go all the way back to the start. Let's watch season 1 and roll through to the current day. I jumped straight on at season 7, which
Negan
starts
first
on
shows
a,
up.
which basically starts on like kind of a cliffhanger or like a tease,
Yeah.
or like season 6 ends on a tease where you see like Negan get out of the truck, and then season 7 starts with Negan just fucking killing people. And I remember watching it with Dad, and I think he loved and hated watching the show with me. I think he hated watching it with me sometimes because he was just like, "What is wrong with you?" Because I constantly cheered for Negan, and I think he loved watching with me because he was so like disturbed by the things that I would laugh at, like the parts where like Negan is like bashing Glenn's head in. And I'm like, yo! And I'm laughing at like the most fucked up parts of the show and like Negan killing people. But it's all stuff that's like serious things.
Yeah.
Like none of this stuff is funny or intentionally funny. But just the way my brain works, I'm just sitting there laughing my ass off when he's strutting around and just like saying stuff. And then he would just cave someone's head in with the baseball bat. I love stuff
It's just
like
Negan's demeanor while doing it. I can see how that would just make it funny. You
Yeah,
know?
it's just like it's like watching a stand-up comedian murder people.
Yeah,
You
pretty
have
much.
to laugh. It's just funny because you're like, oh well, he's a funny guy, but he's doing bad things. But it's funny because he's a funny guy. It doesn't make it a good thing that he's doing, but you kind of have to laugh because he's funny. Like I said, it's like watching a stand-up comedian go around and just murder people. Like he just does it in a funny way that I can't help but laugh. And just like he's doing these things, but then he just says these like goofy phrases while he's doing it. Where like he'll like knock Glenn's eyeball out of his head, and it'll be like, "Hey, you dropped something." It's like your eyeball just popped out. I think disgusting. Oh my god, that is. Ugh, disgusting. Get a hold of yourself.
He has so many funny lines.
Oh,
the one
I loved
a
him.
couple episodes later, I think he comes to wherever like Rick and all them are staying, and he like basically takes their supplies, and Rick just kind of has to be like, "Fine, take it, whatever," and he's like, "I just shoved my dick down your throat. And you thanked
You know what I think about it? If somebody were to like, if they did a remake of that show and they were gonna cast Negan, you know who would be perfect for that? Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins would be a perfect Negan. If like for whatever reason they recasted him or they had to go back and reshoot the show again, I could see him walking around with the baseball bat. And then, like, just saying the phrases with the leather jacket, because now he has, like, that's, like, his whole gimmick is, like, the flashy clothes and everything. I could absolutely see him sliding perfectly into that role. And
he really would be a great Walking Dead villain.
Honestly, yeah. Like, between that and him being the villain from Far Cry 5, he can fit a lot of roles. He's somebody I could see being an actor. Like, you see a lot of wrestlers move into, like, acting and stuff. He's somebody that I could actually see, like, just his persona and like the look that he has, it would work for a lot of movies. Like maybe the acting part of it he might not be great at. Like that's like kind of like give or take. Some guys get really good over time, but like just his look in general, it's kind of like the opposite of like Cena and The Rock, where it's like they don't look like actors, but they have such big personalities that they kind of just find their way, and like make
just by being
work.
Themselves most of the time,
where they just play themselves in the same movies, like especially The Rock constantly just plays himself, and just The Rock comes in, says one-liners, and then just gets paid $100 million like every other week. He's cool though. I don't have a problem with him doing that.
I'm still so mad that they're not doing Seth Roman again at Mania. It's fucking criminal to end that storyline the way they did.
Yeah, that was like such a one-off storyline. That's so weird.
Yeah, that was literally like one of the best things I've ever seen WWE do, and they just went, "All right, back to Brock versus Roman now."
Yeah.
Like,
right, that's enough. That's enough. You guys got your fill.
Fucking hate goddamn company. I'm just loving AEW right now. It's miles ahead of pretty much anything WWE's doing. And it's funny, I saw on Reddit, like, I think Wrestling Observer did, like, their awards for 2021 for, like, best promotion, best wrestler, best all that. And of course, AEW stuff won pretty much everything. And comments were like, oh, wow, like, gee, I wonder who they favor. And I was like, it's almost like people prefer a good product over a bad one. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I don't have a problem with, like, WWE. It just doesn't do it for me anymore. And if you're a fan of WWE, like, that's fine and everything, but wrestling is such, and here we go. Now we're diving into a big rabbit hole. Just because wrestling is just something else. But wrestling now is so weird because now you have this definitive, like, number 2 company in wrestling, and that hasn't really been a thing in a long time. Even when TNA was, like, at its peak, it was never truly
the number 2 or like a competitor.
It was never close to being like a big thing.
Yeah.
Like AEW on its own is like a big company without even comparing it to WWE. TNA never really was that. It was always like a niche thing.
Yeah. Like AEW in its own bubble compared to wrestling.
Yeah, AEW is out there. Like it's its own thing. It's big.
It's getting mainstream appeal.
It's so weird to me when you see wrestling fans now, because it's like people are like choosing sides with AEW and WWE like you have to.
Yeah.
And it's really weird to me. Like, yeah, I don't really keep up with WWE anymore because I wasn't enjoying it. But I'm not going to be like, wow, you're a fucking WWE mark.
Yeah, no, that's like, stupid.
if all of a sudden I hated what AEW was doing and WWE was just like rolling, I'd be watching Raw every week. I'd be watching SmackDown every week. And like, it's just like, why aren't people just fans of wrestling?
Yeah.
It's weird to me that like people have to get like tribalistic about it and like be like, oh, you're an AEW fan? Or like vice versa. It's stupid. It's goofy. It's not like the Monday Night Wars. Like neither company's going like to put each other out of business. I think wrestling is a competitive enough market right now that like AEW and WWE like both can coexist very easily. I think not that wrestling's bigger than it is, but I think now you have so many hardcore fans with wrestling that like it's not really gonna go away. Like you look at like the Attitude Era and like when wrestling was like the biggest it ever was. Not everybody was like a hardcore wrestling fan. Like you had so many casual fans back then, and like it was like watching a football game. But like you have so many fans now where like they're so diehard wrestling fans. You don't really got to worry about like, oh, these people are just gonna go away because it's not really a casual thing anymore. If you're a wrestling fan, you're pretty like dug into wrestling. Like I think even CM Punk said that like there's not really such thing as like a casual wrestling fan anymore.
Yeah,
it's not the amount of hardcore fans and like just dedicated fans to wrestling compared to casual fans. It's like 90% to 10%. It's really like really distinct how many people are just dug into wrestling rather than like, oh, I'll turn on AEW Dynamite tonight and check it out. Like, you don't really have that. But I think that's one thing that like it's good for wrestling too, because you, like I said, you can have both companies coexist. Whereas like WCW and WWE, like back when they were competing, like I hear a lot of people be like, oh yeah, back when Austin and The Rock were around, like you hear so many people say like that they used to watch wrestling back then. Now it's like you don't hear people like, oh yeah, I used to watch back in like anytime after that, after like WCW was gone, and like say you got to like the mid 2000s and like wrestling started to cool off a lot. You're never really gonna hear people be like, oh yeah, I used to watch wrestling back in like 2011, 2013. I think maybe around when Punk was big the first time, or when Punk was still in wrestling for his first stint. That's probably the last time that you had a lot of casual wrestling fans around. And then maybe recently since he came back, but outside of him, you don't really have people being like, oh yeah, I used to watch like back around this time. It's like, no, everybody who watches wrestling from this certain time period has pretty much been on board since then.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting like demographic and like interesting audience. That like you can have all these different wrestling companies because people just love wrestling. People are just gonna watch it. You don't have people who are just gonna flip through channels and be like, "Oh, this is on. Let me leave this on." Like, chances are people are gonna watch the whole thing, or they're just not gonna watch it. And it's like it is really interesting to me the way that like wrestling fans are in that sense. But I do hate that like people act like one's better than the other.
Yeah.
Like though I heavily prefer AEW, I understand that it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, it's definitely not.
And I also understand that WWE isn't just an absolute dumpster fire with nothing good going for it. It does have good segments and it does have good things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
They just might not be for me. And that can be, the shoe can be on the other foot with that too. But some people like blindly follow one or the other. Even AEW fans, there's AEW fans who like blindly follow AEW and act like everything is a 10 out of 10 there. And it's just not true. And then you have people who react to the way that people act to which one they follow. So you'll have people who were diehard AEW, like people always say like, "Oh, you're AEW fanboy," and I'm like, sometimes people get annoying with that stuff, but there are people like that.
Yeah.
Where they say, "Oh, dude, WWE's trash, AEW all the way," and now you have this weird niche of like people who are like hardcore, like diehard WWE fans because they hate the way that people act about AEW. And that is so stupid and so weird to me. Where they will shit on one product because other people like it so heavily and so blindly that they will dismiss the entire thing because of those people.
Yeah.
And now you have these
stupid.
And it's like this whole like circle of people being like, "Oh, I'm a big WWE guy because this person's a big AEW guy and AEW isn't that good." So they like blindly follow one side, and it's like a weird like back and forth kind of thing when like just like wrestling, just watch wrestling. Like this is one of the greatest time periods to be a wrestling
fan. It really
fan.
is.
Cuz you have New Japan, you have Impact, you have AEW, WWE. Like Ring of Honor is not around anymore either. Like they just went out of business and stuff, but there's an abundance of places to go like get your fix on wrestling. And like to just kind of like close yourself off to one place or the other is just silly. Like you can enjoy all of them. That's how it should be. Yeah.
And I didn't want to sound like I was being like tribalistic when I'm saying earlier. Because I do prefer a lot of what AEW is doing, and like this is the first time I'm watching wrestling week to week in like 5 years since like SmackDown in 2016. But again, like I said, like what WWE did with the Seth versus Roman thing, like that was seriously like one of my favorite things WWE's ever done. Like one of my favorite wrestling things, period. Like it was one of my favorite things I've ever seen. But I just hate how they followed up with it. Like that's what pisses me off about WWE, stuff like that. And it's not that they don't have anything going for them, because I love what they're doing with Brock right now. I love what they've been doing with Roman. Or not so much what they've been doing with Roman, I just love what Roman has been doing himself for like a year and a half. I think it sucks that they're clearly struggling to find good challengers for him at this point, since he's just mowed through the entire roster. Whether that's a fault of WWE's own booking to produce stars for him or whatever, who knows. But there are definitely things I like about WWE, and I keep up with it for a reason. It's not like I keep up with them to be like, "Oh, so they suck still. Good." Like, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah, like basically like root against one company or the other. That's the big one, is like people rooting against AEW or rooting against WWE. It's just silly. Like, why would you want this product to fail?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't want to enjoy it? It's really weird.
Yeah.
But that's just wrestling fans. Like, wrestling fans, anime fans. Though I am a fan of both things, there are a handful of anime and wrestling fans who are... What's the best way to put this without sounding rude or sounding ignorant.
Fucking stupid.
No. Like subhuman, or like brain dead. That's probably the best way to put it.
That's why I'm not on Twitter. It's nothing but
Wrestling, yeah,
complaining wrestling and Dragon Ball fans.
Wrestling and anime Twitter is a desolate place.
It's just so many people just saying like, "This is why Dragon Ball should have never came back." Like,
Like,
dude,
I wasn't a big fan of Super, but
yeah,
I'm not gonna get mad that it came back either.
I still think it was a pretty enjoyable experience overall. I think the first two arcs definitely could have did without them since they're just movie retellings.
Yeah.
I think everything else that Super did from Universe 6 to the Tournament of Power ranged from okay, minus the Future Trunks ending, which was horrific and horrible,
Yeah.
to really good. Like stuff that genuinely rivals like the peaks of Dragon Ball Z. So for that, I'm like, I can't complain that Dragon Ball's back. Like, I love Dragon Ball, and I'm glad that I get to see it again, you know?
You're a Dragon Ball fan?
Yeah, man.
I didn't know that. He's been wearing this hoodie for 2 hours. You're a Dragon Ball fan? I didn't know that. I figured you were just big into Japanese culture.
Well, I'm a Flyers fan. It just matches the colors.
This is my Japanese Flyers hoodie.
It's funny to think though, like if Team 4-Star never did Abridged, I feel like that's like a huge reason why Dragon Ball remained as popular as it did. Like
yeah,
in the
kinda,
US,
like since there was like really nothing going on with it, it kind of gave people it gave it traction when there was no traction around.
It low key kept it alive in
the
US for like 10 years.
I would say like that in the games.
Well,
too.
5 years, but
that in the games too.
Yeah.
I feel like they were churning out like a new Dragon Ball game like every year now, or like every like couple years. But most of them were pretty good though too. Like ever since like Xenoverse came out, they've all been like pretty solid.
Should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I gotta piss and blow my nose. And I didn't want to pause it, so I just been dealing with it the whole time.
I gotta get ready.
No worries. I think I gotta get ready for stuff too. I'm
going for 2
going
hours.
to the casino tonight.
With who?
Actually, here we'll end it on this story. So we are going to Parks Casino for my friend's sister's 21st birthday. Here's the twist. She's 22 this year. We're going for her 21st birthday because last year we had planned to go to Parks for her 21st. And if you remember, it was that night last year where it was really icy out, like beyond icy. Like no matter what you did, you were gonna fall on your ass no matter what. Like trying to walk carefully. It was a fucking crash ice level outside, and so my buddy, he goes to pick up his sister. We're all at the bar just hanging out, like waiting to hear like, oh, everyone head to Parks. We're kind of like pre-gaming the casino, and I get a text from him, or he posts in the event thing on Facebook, and he goes, change of plans, guys. I gotta take my sister to the ER. She slipped and cracked her head open on the ice, so they had to cancel the whole thing. So this year we're gonna try again, and I think it's supposed to snow today too, I believe. Yeah, snow beginning around 2 hours ago, for off and on for a half hour. So I think we're safe. But this year we're doing the second 21st birthday thing for my friend's sister. So hopefully it goes well. Hopefully nobody goes to the emergency room this year. Hopefully everyone just goes and gambles and loses their life savings, and we just have a great time. So yep, that's going to wrap it up for this podcast. Thank you guys, anyone on YouTube, for watching. Thank you for the couple people who came in, said hello. I know this was not the greatest day to do this because, like I said, Horizon Forbidden West came out, and everyone cares about that right now. So hopefully people go back and watch this and have fun. I had a good time doing this. Hope you enjoyed doing it.
They're just saving the best experience for last when they come back to us.
Yeah. But thank you guys for watching. Bye. Woody.